Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at the access control, how the access control can be managed in Xcode and Swift, the languages. As you may know, the Xcode provides two languages, Objective-C and Swift. In this tutorial, I am going to use Swift. And also there are two interfaces for implementations, UIKit and Swift UI. So we are going to choose a UIKit, which is easy to start. It doesn't mean that it is completely and absolutely easier than Swift UI. But Swift UI is more to use and develop. Eventually, it would be much easier than UIKit. But today, in this tutorial, UIKit will be used. There are a few ways of controlling user access into your iPhone apps. So access control can be determined depending on credential resources. Credentials data may be hard-coded in your Swift programs. So it'll be hard-coded credentials. And we may know credential data may be stored in a local database. Remember that each small the Linux operating systems, which is a foundation for Android and iPhone, has a special the library, which you may call database systems. SQLite 3 is available. So the question is, how can we use the credential data stored in the SQLite 3, and then we can retrieve it whenever we want to control user access. Yeah, that's what we want to. That is another, a second way of access control. The other typical and apparently different from the other two approach is to use credential data from remote servers. The idea in this case, the access control is not really stored when iPhone app is downloaded and installed. Multiple resources are still disabled until the user access is verified. So credential data always store at a remote server. You may call it cloud server, and it'll be downloaded at the time the app is started, and it'll be appropriate the capabilities of your iPhone app will be enabled. So credential data stored remotely, and then it'll be downloaded and activated. So we're talking about credential data only, but it is likely two-factor authentication becomes very, very popular and also needed. So two-factor, which means then second factor may be on new. Okay, first factor is the credential data, your login ID and password. If there is a role, then role may be another issue. Depending upon the verifications, action needs to be taken. Typical actions will be all views are rejected or all views are allowed, enabled. And the other approach is that a specific UI, the capabilities may be enabled or disabled more selectively. So we're working on that UI button enabling and disabling issues. So today's lecture, we'll look at hard-coded credentials and also UI button enables and disabled. This is some that we already explained. This is a tables explaining that. If we were thinking of not only simple access control, but role-based access control is concerned, then role needs to be also involved. For the same person's credential, login ID and password, the same person may want to work on in different role, in different capacities. Sometimes the same person wants to log in as a casual user. Or at another time, if that person has that privileges that's associated with a specific role, then that person wants to log in as a manager. So manager's privileges may be associated with that access. There's a different sets of privileges. Or some other times, some other roles, maybe system administrator, or some other times maybe payroll manager, and some other times simply employee information access. Okay, not just looking at whatever the work related, but personal issues. So all different kinds of roles may be considered. So that also up to you guys. But today we will look at simple ones. Okay, this comes with when we usually work on this view controller and also views. Using this. If our model is a little bit complicated, then data model also needs to be involved. So today we will look at only some of the interaction between the controller and views. And then in the next module, we'll bring up how we can use databases, local database. And then one after that, how we can use, we can communicate with the external the resources, like remote databases. Okay, so it'll be really challenging, right? So we have a login and password, and then maybe there's a button, sign in button. So we'll work on that. As I said, the implementation the mode that we are working on, pretty much in this semester, in this tutorial, we will look at the UI kit. Swift UI, that is, yeah, get some experience with the UI kit. You may Swift to UI, Swift to UI. That's perfectly fine. The layout of your views, it is up to you completely. What I'm trying to say here, if there is a green box, then you can bring up the label component from the libraries. So these green box are simply labels. And then pink box, that is text field. So they can ask user to enter some of the text. And then there is also button. There is this rectangle shape with a circle corner like this. Then that is a button. So you can have one or more buttons. And another components, the graphical components that you can get from the library, that is image views. So you can bring the image views, right? That is also possible. Basically, we will design that way. Here is this. These are the layout. Layout itself, just the view. There's no logic running behind. So you need to have another, the code. This is the code. This code sits behind this view. So left-hand side, this is the view, and right-hand side, this is the code. But view is just simply a layout. This is a Swift code files. They don't know each other, right? You need to connect to them. So from these, the views, if there's some components that you want to deal with in your coding, then you need to connect to that. For example, text field, simply it shows a box on the view, but in your code, then you need to do something with this text field, right? When user type on this text field, then you need to take the user input. So you need to, that variable needs to be defined, and that this variable used within this code, and that fact should be known by this text field. So that is a connection. So between these components and this variable needs to be connected. Same thing, button needs to be connected. Anything that you think you need to use, you need to refer to in your code, then you need to connect it. Otherwise, this variable has nothing to do with the components on the view. All right. So once more, there is a view. This is in your UI kit, storyboard, and the right-hand side, this is the code, Swift code. This is Swift code where there are multiple variables that you want to deal with. These variables should be connected, linked with the graphical components here. If you have, remember that there may be not only one view, but by clicking this, if you want to move to another view, then we may have more than one views, right? Multiple views. So views will be navigated. To help this navigation among the views, there's a special component called navigation controllers. If you bring this navigation controller, then all of these things will be much easier. Okay, and so you bring up this navigation controller, you need to embed this navigation controller. After that, you may define new view. Initially, when this navigation controller, in addition to or on top of the view that you initially defined, then they are connected. But after that, when you create a new view, this new view has yet nothing to do with this navigation controller and this default view controllers, right? So you have to connect this from one view to another view. There is a logic. How can you bring the new view from the current view? If there is a logic such that when user click this button, then in response to button clicking, if you want to bring up a new view, then you need to connect from this button to the new views. Okay, so from this view, entire view, there may be multiple other views, not only one view, depending upon different graphical components. If I touch these graphical components, then the next view will be this view. If I click another components, then it may go to another view. If I click another, then it goes to another views. So each way of those, so-called the segue, so we have to define this segue. So this segue will bridge from these graphical components to this entire new view. Another segue goes to another views. Okay, so this is the general ideas. So eventually we may have these menus, right? So for example, this doesn't show that yet, but if I click this button next up, then it goes through this segue. So we have next up. If I click next down, then it goes to another segue to another views. If I click this sign in button, then it goes to for another view that may want to check two-factor authentications. Okay. By the way, in this in our simple implementation of two-factor authentication is to generate the random code here. Okay, then random code needs to be typed on the new view and click the button, then it come back here, and depending upon this credential verification and also two-factor authentication, second factor authentications, there may be some determinations, right? Whether that user needs to be authorized to come or maybe rejected, denied. There's a coding techniques that you need to know. Remember that from the button clicking, it needs to go to the next view. If I point out here, then if this clicked, then it goes to this new the view. Then Then we need to prepare, override the function prepare. This whole thing already available function, so we simply use it. So bring this function template, and we need to implement it. So we need to define destination using this segue. Segue goes to another UI story board segue. So you are, remember that this is the function in Swift. This is a function variable for the same parameter. There will be two parameter names. The first parameter names, that the for will be used by color. Second one, that is the parameter name, parameter variable, that's used within this implementation, within this function itself. So for we don't use, right? Because we're going to implement this. In case we want to call this prepare from outside, then we can use this for, so that I can, hey, this particular storyboard segue or another storyboard segue, something like that. So we have, this is the first parameter. Second parameter is a sender. For these two parameter, two different values for the same variable, that is the type of this. So colon followed by type. Sender, this is a variable. Colon followed by type. Type will be anything. So destination equals, in this conditional statements, we first define this. This is assignment, right? Destination is destination. This right hand side, there's a whole thing. This will be assigned to the left hand variable. This is a local variable, so-called destination. Destination, if it is assigned successfully, which is let means constant, var means variable. So within if statements, we have an assignment. So destination constant is declared if it is successfully declared by holding segue dot destination, whatever the variables, whatever the value, which type is the second view controller. This is if we have another view controller, if it is called the second view controller. So that is the destination. If this the code, the Swift code for the second view is available, then we call that, that is the destination through this segue, and I will assign that object to my local constant, which is called the destination. And this constant, which is the type of that view controller, that view controller has a variable, whatever the variable defined in this controller. There I want to assign my local value. If user type login, then I will assign this login, user login, to the variable in the second view. In this way, it is very smoothly, the value can be passed from the first view to second views. Okay, the value that is typed by user on the first view, because we say, hey, enter your login name, then that login name very nicely moved to pass to the second view. So in the second view, we can do something. Okay. This is only that we are going to use. At another situation, we can use a perform segue if we have, for example, multiple different segues available. Then we can use that also. But right now, today's lecture, you don't have to worry about it. And in the second view, remember that this is the variable that we are going to receive. This is a local variable on the second view, but this variable will hold. This is the second variable, right? Yeah, now this is a variable. And then on the second view controller, there is a graphical components, which is a text field, right? And also there is a label, lb from pref.txt. It is not written here, but should be there like this. ib outlet variable, lb pref, that is a UI label. That should be defined, and on that text we're going to write the user ID that's passed from the first view. This is a variable defined in the second view, but that receives the user login. So that is written here, right? And then on the second view, still we have to return button. So we call that button return code. As user enter return button, then we need to this completion handlings. Okay, this completion is defined here. That is a completion handler. So before we use this is a variable definition. So we have to say public variable completion handler is defined. That handler is defined in a way like this. Given string, just receive string. That's it, right? So when we that second factor, as I said, in our implementation, there's a random number that appears on the first view. So you have to keep that in mind. When it comes to the second view, then for the purpose of two-factor authentications, it asks you to enter that random number. So you simply enter it. There's no necessarily return values. Simply enter it, then that button function completes. And back in the first view, then you have to receive it, right? There is a function you need to define did unwind from second factor view controller, and then sender is type of sender is UI storyboard segue, and then you receive a factor code. Sender sorts as this factor code. If that factor code is the same as this is a variable in the second view controller, right? Factor code. This factor code I called it differently, but anyway, this is a factor code. This is my current controller, right? The view controller. Dot text code. This text code is defined here. TXF code, right? This text field code. This text field code is a variable that's the code received by user for the purpose of the second factor authentication. That code is the variable on the second controller. So we are now working on the first view controllers. In the first view controller, we need to first define a constant called the factor code. The factor code is nothing but second view controller. So in the second view controller, there is a variable called the text code. That text code has some text typed by user. So we take that text. If that text is the same as the code, this code is the code entered by the user. No, that code is randomly generated in the first view. If they are the same, then if second factor is verified, then goes to the verify function, call verify function. In this verify function, then we need to check whether user credential is the login name and password are properly matched. Else we need to disable buttons. So code pretty much here, as you can see, there's a random number generated, factor code int.random. So we can say that is 3 digit numbers. Okay, you can increase this zeros here, then 4 digit numbers. And credentials are used as the dictionary. Therefore, this is a user ID and then password pair, the key and value pair. Okay, this is hard-coded credentials. Remember that today's lecture we're doing this hard-coded credentials. So that is CRAD. And when user enter login name and password, then we hold it on our login ID and password. This is a local variable. Login ID and password. Here, login ID, that is the int type string, initialized empty null values, password in string, null value, but we assign that to this. The code is assigned at the very first time when this view is loaded. And this assigned there when the sign-in button is clicked. When that button is clicked, then that is the time login and password is assigned to local variables. And wait, when this button is clicked, then there is a perform button is clicked. Perform function is prepare function. This function is activated, so this should be somewhere here. Okay. And it goes to the second view like this. On the second view, when user enter, this is we have to define in order to take user the second factor code. There's a completion handlings. When that completed, then it goes back to the first view, return. So it's a wind to the second view and unwind back. So this is for unwind. From that second view, if there is an unwind, then we handle this. This verification function is this verification function. When the second factor is verified, then call this verify function. This verify function is to verify user's login name and password. From this credential, this credential can be accessed by the keys. Keys returns these keys. If the keys contains the login ID, so we first to verify if user login ID is available, Jyoon and Yoon. If this is not, then we can say not valid user. Okay. Once this user ID is available, then we need to check if there is a password and that password is matched. For specific key, which is login ID, there is a pair with the password. This is stored password. This stored password should be the same as user just entered password. So to this credential I'm sorry, dictionary, if we enter key, then this guy will return the value. The value is nothing but the password. So stored password, if it is the same as user entered password, if they are not matched, no, if they are matched, because we have a double equal sign, then successfully logged in. If they are not matched, then password is unmatched. This question mark is not the question mark and equal. So we have a double equal sign. This is if they are the same. This question mark is suffix to this notation here. There is a question mark, no, exclamation mark or question mark like this. This is question mark. Exclamation mark means this variable should have explicit values bound to. This is optional. If there isn't no two-factor the code is available, then may not be available, right? So that may be optional. Optionally, you can assign this. If it is not there, then we don't go further, right? In this case, if you want to compare password, then this should have absolutely available. Value should be absolute. Finally, depending upon the verification and two-factor authentications, what we could do is we can a particular the button or display, we can do enable or disabled depending upon this verification. Okay, so let's do our the real implementations. So there's Xcode. And then we need to create new Xcode project. And we are going to work on iOS and app. And next, you can say access control. The interface, that should be storyboard, and then language, not Objective-C but Swift, and then you can fill out others. If we want to use the core data, what that means is that if we want to use the local SQLites, then we need to click this. All right, but yeah, let's not do this initially, okay? And then click next. And that will be saved on this directory, and create. So we have a view controller. This is the code sitting behind this main. We have only right now one view available. This is entry levels, and there is a plus sign here that we can bring up the library. If we want to bring up more libraries, then we can more than once, then holding down Option key and then click this, or you can click this each every time. So let's do each every time first. So click this and then bring up label, and up here you can extend this and that is called the label. So you can say welcome John Yoon's app. And hit enter, then it comes like this. And then if you want to make this centralized, that'll be fine. And click this T button, then fonts, you can do system, that'll be fine. And regular, if you want to make it bold, heavy, whatever. And size, you can increase this, say 24, maybe so. And I want to have a background color. There is a background, so accent color in blue. Okay, and that's it, right? And I need to click this again and bring it here. And I would say login. Okay, so login. And I would put here text field, type text field. Then I would have this. I want to line up. Text field. This text field doesn't look clear, so fonts 14 fine. Border style, maybe like this. All right, and then I want to bring this together by holding Shift key. If you click this and that, then both can be chosen, and then copy and paste. Oops, this should be down like this, and this should be, rather than login, in this case, that should be password. Hit enter. Password. Then you can this, and then there is a button, right? So type button. Can bring that button here. Can say login. This button, background, background configuration, background view, login, maybe system orange. All right. And this text, foreground, maybe white. So system background or color white. Okay. Around this time, we need to choose how it look like. So we have iPhone 14. That emulator is chosen. And then there is a button for, there's a start active scheme. So we want to build the project, the app. So that comes up here behind. So we have this, and we can do Jayun, and then password, and the login. Nothing has been done, right? This button needs to be activated, but it's not really, right? So basically what we need to do, one thing that we first to fix, this password, if I put this here password should not be displayed as typed, right? So what we can do, when I click this text field, remember that this is attribute inspector, right? This attribute inspector, there is a secure text entry. If you click this and then redo, replace, then if I type here Yoon and my password, so whatever that, right? So this is fixed, which is good. But right now, this guy doesn't move anything, right? This is a little bit clickable, but there's no logic behind. So we need to handle it. Okay. Basically, as I said, this is the view. If you click this to end this emulator, that you can do that, or while you are code, you still want to use this emulator, then please click on this, the show project navigator, then you can still work on. So we are currently here on main, on this, right? But we want to work on at one side this view, side by side, and right hand side I want to bring up the code itself, so that remember if I use this login text field and password text field and this the button, those are three things that I want to use, right? So so first of all, I need to bring up the code here side by side. In order to do that, if you come here, this icon, it says add editor on right. So click this, then we have left hand side, the view as we had. Right hand side, currently it is copied, but I can choose on this right hand side view controller here on this the file manager, file navigator. If you click this view controller, then the code comes up here, right? So left hand side we have the view, right hand side the code. Code is given already, created by me, import, and this, right? We have, this is a class entire, that is the class name, view controller. This name is the file name here, that's class name, and this class is in type UI view controller. This is open and close curly brace from here there, and this class has a first function method is this, which is called the view did load the function. This is downloaded, this is inherited from superclass, which is this. Okay, super.view did load, this is the same name as this, right? This name, this view did controller already defined in this UI view controller. When I implement the same function in my sub class, I want to still have the same capabilities already given from this superclass. Then I need to say super dot the very same name. Okay. All right. I want to make here a little bit of the room, so that I need to declare from here there. The way that you can connect, click this, one time click, and hold down control button and drag and drop. this is outlet. You can name it. Here is a convention to identify, because there is a text field. You can say there's a text field, TF, and then you name it, login. There's my variable. By doing that, the code generated already. This is what I typed, right? TF login. That is, if I use TF login here, then that is simply already connected with this text field. So this view and this code internally, they are connected. Connection here in this case only for this text field. So we could have another here. So text field password. Okay. And another here, this is a function button. So I want to have, this is a typical variables, and this is a function. So I want to have that function underneath here. Same thing, hold down control button and drag and drop. And connection here is called action. The other one is called the outlet, right? We have action here. If it is a button, then we can say btn and then login. That is created. In order to remember that I want to action. Oh no, in this case this is okay. Right, some of the cases we may need to do. What I want to do here, when this button is clicked, then I want to read it the way that we want to read. If I want to read from here, right? As I read, then I need to store in my local variable. So simply you need to do is you need to declare variable login equals like this. Or you can do, if you want to do, hey, this is a type string, then you can simply do string. That'll be fine. And then variable password, that is also string. As this button is clicked, I want to put that login. In that case, I can say self.login. Remember, this is object orientation. My current object, if I want to specify login for this my current object, then we can say self.login. If I say self.login, then that means this login. But when I say here self, it is not super. And it is not just any other login, but this login of current object in this object-oriented programming. To this variable, I want to assign TF login, I'm sorry. TF login currently that is simply UI text field type, right? From that UI text field, we need to take the text out. So if I press dot, then I can get text. So text out. Similarly, self.password. Then to this variable, I want to have a TF from TF password. I want to get the text out. When I assign this to that local variable, if there is no nothing, no nothing, then I cannot assign anything. There could be some error, right? Therefore, this guy says you want to have a explicit value enforce unwrap using question mark, or I mean the exclamation mark. Question mark, that is optional, right? Optional value. This is absolute values. So I want to put the text, the exclamation here, also exclamations. So let's try to run. So I can do Jaeyoon and then password John and login button, but nothing. Of course, I didn't do anything, right? So I have to do something here. One more thing that I could do, I want to repeat, right? Here, what I want to do is just click, copy and paste, and bring that here simply. I want to say user's login ID, and I want to have another user's password, and both of these I want to put so left to justified and color here, color maybe gray, both are in gray. Okay, and when this user entered the login and password, I want to echo that on here so that I can also bring that here. Say LB echo 1, and then this LB LB echo 2. Okay. Actually, this is when this button, then we can do LB echo 1 dot text into their self login, and also LB echo 2 dot text self password. So I read and then echo it on the bottom. That's what I mean by. Okay. Let's see how it works. Jaeyoon, and then John, login. And there's a John there. User login. This is not rewritten. Let's see. Right now we don't need to do anything here, right? Just simply nothing. Still it should appear. So John, and then click on this login button. John appears, but this guy does not. What happened? Why this guy does not? Echo 1, echo 1, echo 2. This, that. Why two different? This guy should be only echo 2, so we need to make this, and here I think this guy should, oh no. I'm done. Redo. LB echo 1 connect. So LB echo 1, LB echo 1, LB echo 2. So messed up. Hold down Control button and bring that here. LB echo 2 connect. Okay, echo 2 is connect there. There's echo 1. Okay. So now it is okay. Yeah, John Yoon here and John there, right? All right. Yeah, if something not appeared, although you have here graphical components on this storyboard, and you connect that graphical components to your code properly, it doesn't behave as you expect, then come here. It is called show the connection inspector if it is really properly connected. So here ID echo 1 connected to view controller, that's fine. By doing this, IB echo 2 is controlled. Same thing here, login. Then you can see the touch up inside. That is here, view controller, right? Everything that should appear like that. Here you have this. Here also same thing. The other, no, nothing, right? Because we don't use the other. This guy also we don't use. All right. Now we need to. I want to close this. If you want to close these things, then there is a X button. Close this editor, so that we have enough space here. Trying to define credentials. Let's say variable user credential that is, for example, John Yoon colon, that is the password. And then if you do mercy and then password cyber, you can add more and more if, as you wish. And then there's a random number need to be generated, right? So we have a variable, say code equals random number, integer dot random, and integer. And integer, I want to do 4 digits, 1 0 0 0, and then dot 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 10 0 0 0. Then 4-digit numbers will appear. That 4-digit numbers should be written, right, at the very first time here. So and also we need to have the function called the verify. Okay. Verify function. So let's say func verify is the function that we define. It is not given, right? Simply do this, and then you can do let's say we need to verify. We checked this already, so we don't really need. Yeah, we can do here verify. This verify function is if CRED, the keys that contains, if that contains self dot login, if it contains, then we can say we can further verifies. If it is not contains else, then we can say in LB echo, in the LB echo 1 we can say ID invalid ID. We simply say that, okay, invalid ID. Once valid ID, then we need to check if credentials self login, then it returns the stored password. That stored password is the same as user entered the password. If it is the case, then login, right? Login complete. Then we can say lb echo 1 dot text. We can say self login. We use to echo to that text there. Otherwise, lb echo 2 dot text. You can say unmatched password. All right. So let's check. Oh, by the way, that we can use that random number a little later. We need to place that up here. So let's say John Yoon, and then John login. Say John Yoon is successfully accessed. And if I say Yoon is not available here, right? So login, then invalid IDs, right? And if we do John Yoon, but password is not this, more than that, verified, then John Yoon unmatched password. So it works like that, right? We can do more additional actions here, but right now we do like this. Next thing that we need to do is we need to type the two-factor code, right? So in order to do that, we need to have another editor here. On the left hand side, we need to have login, storyboard. What I want to do, I want to bring this a little lower. Okay. Little closer. Okay. All right. Remember that if we bring up the library and stay here longer, then we need to hold down Option button and click this so that we have a label, bring label here. We can say the second factor code. And then we have another label. That's a code, right? The code should appear here. That code from right justification and code need to be boldface, bigger fonts, but the color, foreground, the color here, maybe sesame green color. All right. Okay. So far that. Take this out, and then this still stays, right? In order to move this out, then we need to close this. Right now, here we need to bring up, we need to embed the navigation controller. Therefore, we can have the next one here, right? So holding the, click this button, view, this on top of this view controller, on the left, there's a view controller, center, first responder. The third one is the next exit button. So when you want to exit, for example, if I have the second view controller, by clicking this, if you want to let it go to the first controller, which is unwind, then you need to use this. All right. And yeah, after you click this and come back here, editor, there's embed in, and then navigation controller. So if you click navigation controller, then very nicely you have this, right? And then you need to have one more view control, the view, right? To get that, you need to do you need to get from this library. From that library, if you type view controller, so bring that view controller. Here, line up. Okay. Actually, if this clicked, then it goes to next one, right? So as I said, holding down that login button and drag and drop to next ones. Yeah, then there is a action segue. What kind of action that you want to do? You simply use the show. Okay, this segue needs to have identifier, storyboard segue identifier. That identifier, you can say segue, SG, and then simply login. SG two-factor, SG two-factor. Hit enter. It goes down and come back. Here, so you can say again, I want to have here a label. You can say and then another one here. That is, you simply call that person, okay? And then there is a text field. Text field. Put here, and that text field should be shown. And then there is another button. Can say verify. It's not verify. This is button. So that button comes here. Can say verify. Verify me. All right. All right. So this guy, left view, has the code sitting behind. Code is a view controller, but this guy does not have code, right? So we have to define this code. So to get that, there's a file and new and file. Click. Then you can have Swift files and the new button. And the file name is two-factor view controller, VC. I don't need to do that. Comes in this ACC controller and create. So we have a view controller here that goes the first view, and this two-factor view controller right now has nothing. So we need to have some here on the left hand side view controller, so that I want to have a similar to that. So I have here UI kit. And then class, this class name should be two-factor VC. So it should be two-factor VC. And then type of that is nothing but UI view controller. That is a type, right? And then this guy usually has a view did load method. So hit enter, then it comes like this, right? On this code, what you need to do is super.viewDidController. There's already given. So this much it is done, right? So on the left hand side, we need to bring up that. Yeah, right? Okay. Right hand side of this. And this is the view. This is the code. Hopefully this code sits behind this view, right? That is our design, but they are not really, they don't know each other. So we need to connect this view and that code. To do that, you have to click this view controller and come back here. There is a identity inspector, that icon, click that. There's a class name. If you click that class name to find out two-factor VC, that just I defined, right? That two-factor VC that's defined, that I need to choose two-factor VC and hit enter. Then they know this guy is a two-factor right now that is assigned, right? Two-factor VC. This is the code. All right. So this code sits behind that. So we are halfway through, but in this code we have to deal with I think three things. This label, I want to say the login ID, John or Jae-yoon, right? Enter the second factor code here. Then when user enter, then that needs to be known. This is a button. So this button needs to be, or this text field needs to be declared. This is a button. Button needs to be declared as well. So three things needs to be done. So click this, control. Right now is not ready yet. So we need to come back this a little later. It takes a little time, depending upon your computer capabilities. So we can say clean build folder, clear all issues. Let's see if anything. It's not yet, so we need to wait. What else that we can do while we are waiting? Okay, we need to, here on the view controller, we need to now go back, right, to from here to the second views. In order to do that, as I said, we need to have prepare, right? Prepare. This is method. So click that. So it has a segue, UI storyboard segue and sender. Remember that here we want to say if segue dot no, we need to say let destination to factor, and then segue dot destination as that two factor VC, and then we have to wait, because this guy here, there's no variable yet that we want to send, right? So this much that we do, and another another function that we need to deal with here is unwind. So we can do did unwind. No, we don't do that, right? We can say func did unwind from two factor, and then the one variable of the parameter is simply nil, and then we can say sender is a UI storyboard, segue, That function needs to be defined here. Okay, we do this much, and then bring up the storyboard to see if this guy is ready. Control and oops, something. Undo. Let's see this guy. Not yet. Let's say clean build. No. Do that. Usually it takes a little longer time. The best way is that I can close this and come back. Usually it works. Let's try, okay? Then this is the one that I just opened it. All right. Oops. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it came up. Outlet. There's a label. User login. Okay. And this text field code. And this one, button. So we can say button verify me. Okay. Here, as I said, we need to define one variable for completion handling. So that is public variable complete. This is my variable, right? That completion handler variables type is a function, but that function takes string that is optional, and output is void, which means no return value. And on this verb, that function, we need to do complete handler takes text field code dot text. After that, we need to dismiss this animated. That is true. We need to set back and dismiss. We need to have animated and completion. Then click this. Oh, there's no okay, true and completion. is nil. There's a complete. Yeah, we need to have this exclamation mark, so that explicit we need to complete this. Another thing, the very important thing is, after this, if this is clicked, then it goes holding down control button, then that goes to exit. Oops. Doesn't show up yet. I think, yeah, because that guy did not know yet. What I mean by that here, on this view controller, this guy should be this, when this is done, complete, and goes here. In order to do that, then we need to have here, say, let verification code 2-factor equals sender dot destination, no, source, sender dot source. That source is the second the 2-factor VC controller, right? 2-factor VC controller. And we want to use this as a guard. If it is a guard, then you can say else and then return. That is given. This is same as simply without the guard. And there we need to bring, oh, by the way, here, yeah, this prepare. Then we need to do test 2-factor dot. We need to send the data to this guy, right? In order to do that, we need to have another variable called variable user login, and we can say nothing. Then here dot, then user log here, right? To that user log, we need to have self dot login. Then it comes here, and when this second view is loaded, then we need to say this text label, say self label user login dot text. Into that text we can say user login. Then that from the first view, user login passed to the second view, and that login, that value appear on top. Say, hey Changyun, enter the second factor, right? That is the idea here. Similarly, from the second factor, we need to bring some values here. Which ones needs to be brought in? That is the code, right? So So AC2Factor dot, here user entered the code here, TF code, right? That identified by this TF code. No. Right, this TF code that should be assigned to the code that we read here. We code when we do button, code is not written, so we have to read code. So what we need to do here, another variable called variable two-factor code. Actually, it is not. Let's see. Wait a minute. So it's not yet defined. What I mean by here, this code is not defined here, right? Login, password, the label. Label needs to be, yeah, it's not there. So we have to bring this label. Therefore, we need to write something there, right? LB code. What is LB code? Find out if it is, yeah, only one LB code. So into that LB code, the very first time it is loaded, then we need to do LB code. So we don't need this, and LB code dot text. Into that text we need to bring this code. But code is currently integer, so this guy may complain. This is an integer, this is the string, so you need to convert that to string. String to convert, then it'll be written here. When this view first generated, before login and password entered, then you may be able to see here second factor code is something that is activated here. View did load, right? And then that then you need to check if that LB, no, this comes from the second view, right? If that is the same as LB code dot text. if they are the same. If they are the same, then you need to do finally verify. Verify function, else. Then you can say here, bottom, you can say like this. LB code B1, B2. Yeah, I can copy this. And here. Invalid. This guy says what? This is a string. This is TF code that is so this should be changed to string. String. So both the string needs to be compared. Oops. Those are matched. Simply, what did I do here? There's a code, right? Simply string code. TF code. Let's see, TF code is TF code. We have to get text. Okay. Because TF code itself is a graphical component. So you need to take text only from there. What is missing? Let's try to see. Okay, 5184. We need to memorize it. So JYOON, John 5184. So login. So Jaeyun, enter the second factor code. What did I say? 5184. So we can do 5184. Verify me. Oh, by the way, I didn't remember here. Yeah, this will give me an error. I didn't do yet one more thing. This guy should go up here, but I didn't do. So even if I do this, it doesn't go, right? So here, on top I have 3 buttons. This exit. So from here, control and exit. Oh, still not. I think one thing that we need to do is this guy does not understand this unwind function. Why? Because this is simply a function. So we need to declare this is interface builder action. Interface builder action. Once we say this function is not just a simply function like this verify, this is interface builder function. Therefore, when I bring this up here, the exit, this guy can understand, hey, this is, because we already said this VC2 together with the variable from the second view to the first view. This is the first view, right? So by changing this, click this, control, hold down control and bring up here, then this guy is highlighted. So on release, then this action unwind from two factor, that function appears. So you click this. If there are multiple, then having this, then you have this button is for this by verify me, right? So I think this is good. 5, 3, 2, 4. So Jaeyoon, John, login, 5, 3, 2, 4, and verify me. Of course, if you click this back, then it goes back. But here we need to do 5, 3, 2, 4. We need to this for the two factor. If I simply back, then nothing happens, right? If I do this verify me, verify me, complete handler, unexpected bundle while unwrapped, optional value. So let's change this to complete handler. Completion handler. Let's try to do clear on issue, all issue. One, 5, 9, 8. Join is successfully accessed, right? And if we do 1598, Go back here, different number. Then come back here. Two-factor is invalid. So right. One more thing that we could do here, because to verify it is really logged in. It's not really logged in, right? In this case, we didn't do anything further. But I would say I want to bring up some image views here. When two-factor authentication is successfully completed, then we can bring up some images. Anyway, we want to see how the image comes up, right? So we do image view. So image view comes up here. All right. Of course, this image view should be registered here, right? So we can say we may bring up here. So this image view, that is image view and login photo. Login, image view, login. We name like that. If everything goes well here, rather than simply successfully logged in, then we can do some of the images that can displayed, that can be rendered, right? So so maybe I would say, depending upon the user, right now we have two users, Jaeyoon and Mercy. In order to do that, we have to first bring up here the images, right? I want to close this. So we have here the image things. So we need to bring up some of the images. Just simply drag and drop. That is what we need to do. So find out that somewhere, I think I have some images here. James, John. Let's say, what is John? Okay, I want to use this. So two JPGs, John, and let's say this should be Jaeyoon, right? I want to name as is. This is Jaeyoon, and this is what is this? Well, there's similar images. So I want this Mercy. I think I have my photo somewhere. Give me a second. Let me find out my photo. So what we'll do is I'm going to bring up here, and then I'm going to bring another one. I would say I will change this. So this is a JY that goes up here. I would say this is a Jayun. This is a Mercy. What happens here? We have Jayun and Mercy, two user ID, and then I need to first declare the variable, another variable for images. So images, that is users images. We simply do, we don't need to do this. I would say that is here image will login dot image. I think we need to do here should be UI image. Let's see, UI image named. Click this, and then we do string and self.login, because we already said the image name is login name as well. Remember that here asset, then this is a Mercy image, this is a Jayun image. Therefore UI image comes in that the graphical components called the image view. Into that we want to enter the images. That image is nothing but that UI images. So see what happens. Okay, here Jayun and password John, and then 4369. So login, two-factor, 4369, verify me, then come back here. Oh, this is me. Mine comes up. It says Jayun is successfully accessed. But if I do here Mercy, and then rather than Mercy's password cyber 4369, verify, and 4369, and verify me. Yeah, this is Mercy Manhattan Classrooms. I think this is it. Hopefully you can make this as well. Thank you.